Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Davey Talks. I hope you're well. I hope when you're listening to this episode, you're all full of energy, full of happiness, and generally in a good state of mind. Thanks for pressing play. As always, it's nice that you're taking the time out of your day to listen to me ramble on, as I tend to do. Hopefully not this episode, though, because it features another guest, and it's a new guest for me, someone I've never chatted to before. It makes me feel so happy when I'm able to make contact with new people and discuss their interests and what they're about, and just generally make a new connection. It's why I'm still doing the podcast, people. It's why I'm still reaching out and looking for guests. And incidentally, if you do want to join me for a chat, get in touch at AVA Talks. We can arrange a meeting, we can discuss a chat, and who knows, you could be the next guest. So keep that in mind. Hit the socials at AVA Talks, and hopefully I'll be speaking to you there soon. But back to this episode. I'd like to introduce this next guest of mine. Again, someone I've never chatted to before, so it's a brand new, fresh guest with a brand new, fresh chat. Big warm welcome to Miss Elena Ioakim. I'm hoping I'm getting that right, Missy.
Almost.
Almost. So close. Yet no cigar. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation there.
No, it's totally fine. Don't worry.
Please correct me so I can correct my listeners. How am I exactly pronouncing your name?
Elena is right. The surname is Ioakim.
Ioakim. Do you know, I've tried 3 times before we chatted and I still got it wrong. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
But welcome to the AVA Talks, everybody, and especially you, Elena. Now, the reason I've asked Ellen to come on is because she's got quite an interesting background. Stuff we're going to tap into. There's some fandom in there. She's a very passionate fan of a specific show, which we'll get onto a bit later on. She has a little bit of a writing background. And also, where she's currently based, my own fair city of Liverpool. It's so nice to have someone on who is literally local. You know, there's plenty of guests that have been on that I've had to deal with time differences. And that's no diss to anyone that I've chatted to from overseas. I love chatting to people overseas. But sometimes it is hard for us to make a regular connection because of, as I said, time differences. But we always find a way to work it out. But this is about you, Eleanor, about welcoming you to this show and what you're about. How are you today?
I am not too bad. I had a very chill day. I've been feeling quite good the past week or so. So it's all good vibes. And thank you very much for having me as well. This is actually kind of my first time in a podcast. So I'm really hoping that I do well.
Well, I'm thankful, especially as as you're a newbie to this kind of guesting scene, I guess. It's always, as I say, it's nice to meet someone new who has a passion for certain things that I'm interested in. And again, it's why I've asked you to come on. I'm sure this is going to go really well.
Me too.
We'll start with some of your background. Obviously, I don't want you to go into specific details, but just a little bit of an introduction about yourself and what you do in life.
What do I do in life? That's a very good question.
Yes, it is.
So I do have a day job, as most of us have to, in a way.
Yeah, boo.
Boo. But I've been interested into films and TV series since I was a kid. This is a very quick background of me as well, that I'm originally from Cyprus.
Oh, there's an accent there. I didn't notice. Sorry.
I'm sure this accent, just no matter what I do, it doesn't go away. I should be a bit more scouse, but I'm not yet.
There's time. There's definitely time.
I'm getting there. Originally came from Cyprus. I really was a big fan of films and series. Remember when I was a kid, my brothers used to drive me to, I'm sure a lot of people might not remember them, the Gen Z generation, but we used to have DVD stores. Now so much time in the like watching films and series, and coming from a country that actually doesn't really have a film industry, it was quite challenging, because when I used to say to people, you know what, I want to be a filmmaker when I grow up, they would look at me and be like, haha, that's funny, as if, like, how you going So it's been an interesting ride, because for me to come here and get more opportunities, kind of had to go a bit of a safe direction to study, very traditional course, which would almost made me question my existence. But, I still made it through. But as soon as I landed in Liverpool, actually in 2013, the first thing that I've done, I went and I put myself in a film society.
Wow.
Which that tells you the dedication there.
So is film like your predominant interest? I know you mentioned TV as well, but is it anything kind of on screen that's one of your main passions?
I like equally both, because as a writer, I always have an interest to flex. So I did try to do some other bits of writing, but I would say films and TV series are both. And to be fair, when I was younger, because we're going to talk about that show of mine that I really like, I used to watch a lot more TV than films. But they kind of, I find myself that through the years they're competing each other, films, series.
I suppose it can be hard because the quality of TV shows nowadays do compete with movie making ability. So I can see why it can be hard sometimes to kind of get a fan favorite when there's a really amazing array of TV shows, but equally some really amazing films out there.
I have so many favorites. I don't know where to start.
It can be difficult when you have so many favorites. It's hard to pick one when you like 100 movies. It's really hard to narrow it down. I never try and come up with my favorite film of all time because there's never going to be just one.
No.
There's too many out there to pick one as the greatest movie ever because the sheer amount of genres there are and types of actors, types of acting. It's difficult. There's never going to be a true one movie as the greatest of all time.
No. There are a few which I would say for me they're definitely in the top 10 or the top 5 at least. But every time I try to say a top 5, then I'm thinking of another 5 and the list goes.
It is difficult. What would you say is your favorite genre of movies?
I would say fantasy, sci-fi,
Okay, yeah.
and I really like dystopian as well. I know it's a bit more specific, but I just love it. And a good old comedy as well.
So it's quite a nice mixed bag there.
Hmm.
What would you put in a potential top 3 in terms of comedy movies? I love comedy movies myself, but I'm more of a slapstick kind of comedy guy as opposed to kind of just jokes or a funny scene. I quite like slapstick, people falling over, people slipping, custard pie in the face, that kind of thing. That's my kind of go-to comedy. Where do you kind of put your comedy fans and what's your type of comedy?
I mean, just from childhood as well, I would definitely say White Chicks needs to be there.
Wow, really?
It's a classic. It has to go there. Maybe I'm a bit biased, but White Chicks needs to be there. But I would say things like Naked Gun as well.
Yes. What a great shout.
What a great show. I love that guy. He's so good.
Yeah, Leslie Nielsen really paved the way at kind of looking dead serious, but was being hilarious at the same time. I mean, Police Squad and Naked Gun, two great ways to watch him play Frank Drebin. Just hilarious. Obviously, he's not around anymore. He'd be sadly missed, but great on-screen comedian, had a great presence, and those movies were just fantastic.
And a bit underrated as well on the sense that this is great comedy. I'm not obviously saying that, other films or other stories, they didn't do well, but it's just that kind of comedy that the characters are a bit unaware that they are behaving this way, but that's how they come across and that's what makes them funny. It's similar with Inspector Gadget, I would say, as well. That's another great comedy.
Yeah, but not the live action movies though. I mean, just no. There's no reason why that comedy should have been remade as a live action. It was great as an animated show, and it should stay that way. Yeah, there's some things that have kind of been transitioned to live action that don't work, and I don't get why. When you have thousands, if not millions, of writers out there coming up with great ideas, why can't they put that to screen? Why have they got to do a cartoon remake? Why have they got to do a prequel we don't need? Why have they got to do a sequel we don't need? There's got to be some original ideas out there for people to put on screen.
And unfortunately, it seems to me that the industry is a bit, risk averse because they want to give the audience obviously what they like and going with some safer options of people like this as an anime or they liked it as an animation or a book or a story. It's just a bit safer to play it like that. But I do want to believe that as being an audience as well, we do want to see original stories too and something different. I mean, people will be sick and tired of all this. I don't know if I should mention specific specific ones, how much I can actually say on this.
Hey, it's an opinion. You're welcome to it.
Yeah, for example, I can mention the Marvel Universe. Obviously, I don't know if you're a fan of Marvel in the sense that you've seen everything and you've read everything.
I mean, a majority of things I have kind of walked away from the movie universe now. I think I've seen enough there now. It's just constant movies that are being brought out or remakes. Like I know there's another Fantastic Four coming out. It'd be like the fourth attempt to try and make this franchise work. I appreciate that. There are huge fans out there that necessarily that not necessarily read the comics or the graphic novels. So that this is the only way they can see their favorite characters. I can totally get it. Some people prefer to watch a movie than read a book or a graphic novel. Understandable. But I just feel like there's far too much of it now, and I get it. It's a continuation of the same universe, and they're introducing new characters and new stories. But I think it's time to find something else to be a fan of.
Yes.
This we've had, like, 20 years of this Marvel universe being built up, and we've seen most of the things we need to see. All that we're going to see now is a new movie with a new character with the
Mm.
same sort of plot. In my opinion, sorry, this is just my opinion, folks. Please don't judge me on it, but
I
yeah,
do kind
that's
of
me.
agree with you on this though, because I feel like the first phases of Marvel, especially with obviously the Thanos storyline, it really hyped up everyone. It brought back the superheroes into life, and people wanted to go to the cinema and see that.
Yeah.
But after that, we were always thinking there's connections there. There's a reason why this happens, or this character is here, or this movie is there. You could follow it, and there was this suspense. We wanted to see what's gonna happen, but it just seems like after obviously the last Avengers, the Infinity War, everything just completely changed. We started to think, oh, maybe there's more things that would make sense, but then it lost this somewhere along the way. So I am a bit, I'm as a person that I use very much a superhero fan when it comes to films and graphic novels. I did walk away a bit from the Marvel Cinematic Universe too. So I do share your opinion. Again, folks, please don't judge us for it.
I think there's only really one movie that I'm going to see, which is the Deadpool 3, just because of the reprisal of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and certain cameos coming into it. It's nice that they're going to bring in various characters from various movies and kind of give them another few moments on screen. That I can accept because there are elements of other movies that I did like, but this may be the last Marvel live action film that I see.
I have to say, Hugh Jackman, I am very, I think I'm a bit biased because Wolverine has always been one of my favorite Marvel characters.
Of
So
course.
anytime you give me Wolverine equals Hugh Jackman, I will be biased and watch it. But I
Yeah.
feel like I mean, the character raised the bar really high. So I totally, well, as soon as you said it, I was about to say, I'm going to watch it because of Hugh Jackman.
Of course. He's made that character his own. And yes, I know traditionally Wolverine is a shorter guy, and Hugh Jackman's like, really tall in comparison. But he's really done an amazing version of doing his take on the character and maintaining it. This is a guy that we've seen back in the original X-Men movie. It's just come back and has come back and has come back again in various guises. We're talking the X-Men trilogy, we're talking Logan, we're talking cameos in the X-Men First Class and so on. It's just been a character he's loved and kept it his way. And yes, this is a new variant in the Deadpool movie with the whole being, multiverses. There's many different versions of the same character. I get that. It's a great way to bring an actor back who's, maybe not played the role for some time and just say, well, this is a different version of the character that you're playing. Just a reason to get you back on screen. I totally get it. But I think after this, I'll stick to either watching an animated movie because usually they're a lot better in terms of plot, or just reading a graphic novel or a few comic books. At least then I can get a more excited, appreciation for the characters. For me, it's predominantly DC based. Is my major superhero fandom. I tend to favor the DC animated movies over the certain live action movies, I should say. And I tend to favor the Marvel live action over the animated movies. There's quite a different contrast there. But as a DC fan, obviously disappointed how the Snyder universe kind of ended and it being given that reboot.
Mm.
Again, I get it. Different directors want to go different ways with different actors, and it can cause tension and uproar, and the fans aren't happy, and all these kind of things. But it's a retelling of a classic story. It's another version of a character we all know and love, and what could come of a new universe. Hopefully, it won't take as long as Marvel's taken with 10 years to build it, but who knows? This new versions of Batman and Green Lantern and Superman and so on may appeal to a lot more people. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, are you a DC fan yourself?
Ooh, yes.
Great answer.
I was kind of you're gonna touch on DC because actually, even if I'm a big fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, my heart was always with the DC characters. I always thought that DC had the ability to bring like more relatable characters, darker characters that
Yeah.
have a bit of a dark edge. Of course, my favorite superhero of all time is Batman. I know typical, but it has to be.
I mean, this is another reason why I had to chat with you, because I knew you were going to have a great fandom off the bat.
Totally.
Perfect.
And I do agree with you as well that, the definitely the animated DC films, they're a lot better. And obviously, I have to give credit to the Dark Knight franchise as well, because for me, that was probably
Oh,
one of the best that represented the DC universe and Batman.
so good. Christopher Nolan did a fantastic job bringing that Christian Bale
Mm.
engined trilogy to us. Great movies, great plots, great characters, great visuals, just an all-round enjoyable experience. What an amazing series of movies. Again, like you said, the animated stuff is superior. It's better. I still watch Batman: Mask of the Phantasm quite regularly. I still watch Batman Under the Red Hood. I still watch Flashpoint Paradox, which was better than the god awful Flash movie we saw recently.
Oh, it's so good.
It's just better animated. People out there need to realize that although it's an animated movie, it's not technically a cartoon.
Mm.
It's a animated representation of a great story with great vocal artists. Kevin Conroy, for example, God rest his soul. Arguably the only animated Batman there will ever be. His
Yeah.
voice was just so iconic. But just on screen, they look better. You can make the characters do better things. It's obviously hard if you're a live action version of a character. There's only so much you can do in a costume. But if it's animated, if it's a cartoon version, and putting it in brackets, folks, not that you can see, there's just so much more to take from it.
Mm.
It's always going to be the animated side of it for me, especially because, again, there's so much more you can see and do. The quality is just fantastic.
Yeah, there is this misconception that, animated shows, they are for kids in a way, but actually not at all. I mean, I'm a big fan of anime, so Japanese animation as well, since I was a younger, since I was younger.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think there's so much more you can do when you're using animated stories. And you are right. There's a big conversation, obviously, that with these superhero movies, there's a big budget that goes behind it. Obviously, the visual effects, selecting A-list actors, going through all this editing. There's so much potential to do a lot more on the animated series.
Yeah.
This is spot on that.
I think it's great for the voice actors as well, because they don't have to go and spend 6 months in the gym and getting a big, massive body or rippling pecs and muscles. They just have to talk. It's so much easier. We can let the artists do the visuals of all these ridiculously amazing physiques doing crazy things. All you have to do is talk and let your voice be the tool that carries this character into the world.
I totally agree. And I think you need to give some space for voiceover actors. I think, in my opinion, they're a bit underrated.
Yeah.
They bring such a good content. I wish there's actually more opportunities for them, to be honest, because I think it's a very underrated type of acting. Because I can't imagine if you're in a studio and you're literally reading these pages, you're not there physically to act in a studio with other people, and you're just literally sitting there with a microphone. How difficult it is to actually perform the role in a really good level.
It is difficult. I always freeze when I'm in front of a microphone. Not that I'm a professional voiceover artist, but when I go to record, I do feel a sense of nervousness, because at the end of the day, it's our voices being carried out there, and you want to do a good job, and you don't want to sound, too confident or too nervous, or your voice comes off in a different way. It can be quite daunting.
Yeah. And even obviously when you are talking about films and series and their live actions, the actors get to wear their clothes that they fit in that era, or they practice with other actors so they can kind of get the kind of tone that they need to act on.
Yeah.
But voiceover actors, they actually have it worse because they don't have this thing. So they kind of have to get into that tone of that character in a very small studio just with a microphone in front of them. I would be very scared to try this. I respect these actors a lot.
It's got to be one of those things that really tests you, both mentally and physically, because it's hard to kind of visualize what your character's going to be looking like or doing when they haven't even animated it yet.
Yeah.
They're basing the dialogue and the scenes on your vocals, so it's without something to look at. It's kind of hard. I guess you'd have to maybe hold an action figure over the air and pretend you're doing the scene. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how voiceover actors do their vocal work, but they do a great job, and they should keep it up, because it's, like you say, an underrated skill that deserves a lot more praise. We take these people who do commercials and movie things with just their voice for granted. These guys need more appreciation. They're doing a good thing. So big shout out to all you voiceover artists out there, because you need to keep going. and
Yes.
doing the great things that you do. I wanted to touch briefly on some of your writing.
Yes.
Now, upon doing a little bit of research before we started chatting, I came across the fact that you've penned a few things in the past.
Mm.
Were they scripts? Were they storylines? Were they plots? What have you been creating on paper?
Ooh, the moment in time when I'm talking about my writing. I've actually created quite a few bits and bobs, to be honest. I was like, fun enough, recently I've been doing a bit of searching with all the things that I have, and I've even surprised myself that I have these materials. As that happens, I guess I can start that when I was in uni. And obviously, I was part of a film society, as I mentioned before. I used to have a blog on the side, which was kind of a bit like a fan blog. So I was writing, like, obviously very amateur articles because I was really a huge fan of this book series called Vampire Academy.
Okay.
And they were gonna start making the film. They were actually optioned the books, and it was gonna be made into a movie. So I was following the journey with the producers and all throughout the whole process, and I was so excited that I created a blog about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have a bit of a following on Twitter as well, but these are my secrets that I don't really enclose. So I started to write articles at first, like updates from the actors or, opinions about the set or the filming or when the film came out. I wrote a bit of a review about it. And then during just a bit before COVID, I was going through a lot of courses online. I've done quite a few courses on filmmaking and writing, screenwriting. And I have a few books as well, which I read as pastime. I know it sounds very interesting, right? Reading
Yeah.
books on filmmaking. Um, and then that's when I decided in 2020 to actually write my first script. So I started first and I finished a film spec script. So that's for a full film, which, to be fair, it went a lot over the pages that is supposed to have gone. I think 136 as far as I remember. It should be around 120. So I started with a film script, and then I found this website that I guess this is something that it will benefit other writers who are starting off their careers. When I started writing the first script, I thought, how can I push myself out there or start to share my writing with other people? I found these websites that you can actually submit to competitions.
Okay.
So I came across Open Screenplay, which is one of the websites that they run competitions for short films, longer films, and TV series pilot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I came up with another idea for a TV pilot.
Okay.
I am working on this one right now, even if I wrote it a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
I went on to start writing short scripts. So I believe I have 5 completed short film scripts. And because I was always looking for opportunities, I did take a few amateur roles on writing articles. So actually, I did get a writing gig at some point a couple of years ago. I don't know if you're familiar with the websites called Collider.
I'll say I am now.
But Collider is a bit of a geeky website like CBS News or
Okay, yeah.
part of the same universe. So they actually release a lot of creative sort of articles. When you go on the web and you're like, why Batman was behaving like this, or 5 performances of this actor. So that's the kind of articles that you write.
Yeah.
Or which one you think is like the top 3 animated series, the best in the world. And so I took up on a writing gig, but unfortunately I didn't see it through because they hired me. I signed a contract and it was actually saying that I was a writer. I was very excited, but then the training was really difficult and they didn't pass me on the training. So that was it was a bit sad for me, but also it made me realize that, I need to focus on my scripts and try not to go too much on the writing articles, publications sort of industry.
Yeah.
So after that, I kept applying to different things because I'm very stubborn, to be honest with you. So if it's something, I need to keep doing it. And I actually found a local business in Liverpool, a gaming one.
Yeah.
They had a senior writer position. So I thought that was a bit over ambitious, but I was like, you know what? I would try. I'm going to try because if I don't try, I won't know. They did reject me, so I can openly talk about it.
Oh my God, what fools. Fools they are.
But I did come up with actually an idea for a game because they wanted to see obviously a work. So it's still on the conceptual level. I did a bit of a visual board for it. So I have the concept. So yeah, I did touch a bit into game writing as well. Then after that, I have some concepts for smaller scripts as well for a short film. I think maybe a couple that are still in concept stage. And then actually last week, because I was applying for this Channel 4 writer scheme opportunity,
Mhm.
I came up with another two ideas for like TV pilots because they needed to see the first 8 pages of a new TV series, drama series, the pilot. Just 1 page summary of another idea. I don't know how I managed to do this. Don't ask me. Maybe a lot of coffee and lack of sleep. But I did manage to send the application. So fingers crossed something is going to come from it.
Wow.
I guess the last bit that I can mention on my writing is I did find myself through these competition websites that I was sending my scripts on. I found this screenwriter. He's a great guy. His name is Jason, and he's from New York. He has a lot of writing gigs. He wrote for channels in America, and he's been a writer for 20 plus years. So to me, he's a bit of a sage level, to be honest. And he's been helping me since April 23.
Mhm.
So we're picking up different projects of mine, and he's really helping me to dive deeper into these projects and making them like industry specific so I can actually go out there and pitch my stories to producers and to studios.
Wow. I mean, you're a very busy lady by the sounds of it. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, this is my little secret. A lot of people really don't realize that I do these things on the
Well,
side.
it's impressive work to be able to say you've got that many script ideas and concepts and people you're approaching that could potentially make these things a reality. My God, I'm blown away. It's impressive. I struggle to get an episode of this podcast done, and you're making all these other things potentially happen. It's a kudos to you and the work ethic you have. I look forward to hearing about what comes of any of these ideas you've got, which sound like there's plenty of them. Just sending as many positive vibes as I possibly can.
Thanks.
Listeners need to do the same. You need to back this lady. You know, if you see her name on a script, you know it's going to be a quality item because clearly there's a lot of passion behind these scripts and these things you're creating. So it can only lead to good things. Who knows? Maybe next time I chat to you, it's when you're on the red carpet in Hollywood because of one of your screenplays being made into a big Hollywood blockbuster. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, the world is our oyster. I'm not really on the side that I want to become famous, but to be fair, I just want to do what I love and actually get paid for it some decent money. Not a lot to ask for.
Oh, getting paid for doing something you love.
Mm,
I mean, I'm not going to drop any hints, guys and gals, but if you want to pay me to do this, then you feel free. You feel free to send me those big fat checks and I can quit my job and talk to you all the time. If you are listening, by the way, boss, this isn't me signing off and quitting because I still need my job. I've got bills, yeah. So don't fire me just yet. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We've touched on your writing. We've touched on your passion of being a movie and film. I was going to say a film and TV fan and a superhero fan and a story fan. But there's a certain bit of fandom we want to discuss. It's more for my benefit as opposed to yours because it's something I've never truly watched, although I know of it and I know there are fans of it globally.
mm.
I think there may even been some of my listeners who are actually big fans of it, but I've never seen the appeal myself, and I'm sure you're going to educate me why I'm wrong. But let's dive in as we discuss your fandom of a certain TV show. I don't know why I'm building it up. Supernatural.
Yes, Supernatural. Woohoo.
You're a fan of this cult, classic, iconic, spooky show that's had so many seasons and has a massive fan base, although it doesn't include me. What is it about Supernatural? When did you first become a fan, and why are you still a loyal fan of this show?
Well, the first one is Carry On My Wayward Son.
Tune,
Great
tune.
soundtrack in the series. It's been incredible because to be fair, I started watching Supernatural when from the second season. So we're talking like many years ago when I was still maybe in primary school. So I follow it throughout until it finished like in 15 seasons.
Wow.
So the characters, definitely. Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki, the actors, they really bring the best out of Supernatural. I would say, hands down, a lot of Supernatural fans will agree with me. You keep watching this 15 seasons to see these guys killing monsters, being flawed, being doing a lot of silly things, but still you root for them. It's so, when you ask me, sometimes I'm thinking about why did I spend like 50 years of my life watching a show? These people, they go and like they kill monsters and stuff, but a bit of a twist, a dark twist, but also funny, fun and humor.
Mm.
It was so good to watch because it wasn't all the episodes about the main plot. There were a lot of like, fan service episodes, which you just were waiting to see it. So Dean and Sam, definitely the main reason. So great soundtrack, the main characters, and actually all the other characters that they brought in, because there's some really good names actors wise that they play in Supernatural and they just bring their own touch in it.
Mm.
So I hate to be typical, but I would say the soundtrack and their story, just to watch their journey, has been amazing. How they started those characters, how young they look, like babies first of all in the first few seasons, and now they're married with kids. And I think Jensen Ackles as well. He even has his own brewery back in Texas. So wow,
Oh,
kudos to him as well.
oh, that's interesting because I'm a big beer fan.
Mm.
So, that's something we'll get onto in just a moment because I know there's a certain beer quote on one of your social accounts that I want to mention, but I will come back to that in a moment. Just with the Supernatural fandom, I can only kind of relate in the fact that I was a massive fan of Buffy back in the day. Again, a show that has a major supernatural background and ran for quite a number of seasons. That was kind of my spooky horror actiony comedy kind of show.
Mm.
And again, largely because of the actors and the characters. It wasn't necessarily, Sarah Michelle Gellar herself that I watched it for, although she's a great actress and she again made Buffy her own character and ran with it. But again, with the different plots that were hinted later on the series and some they went back to, and the character development and great visual effects, and there was a good soundtrack. It was very kind of teen rock based, but great soundtrack, great people, great characters, and a series of, I think it was maybe 10 seasons, possibly something like that. But ran for a good number of years and had a great fan following. That's kind of my, I suppose, similar kind of fandom to Supernatural. I know it's a completely different show, but I take, based on the descriptions you've mentioned and certain reviews I've read, that kind of vibe from it. The whole monsters and supernatural elements and people fighting them and ongoing plots that have pushed out over a number of seasons.
Mm.
Would you say me being a Buffy fan is a similar kind of fan to a Supernatural fan?
Yes, definitely. I've watched Buffy as well, so I get what you mean, and I love it as well. Let's be honest. Like we have to be biased. Buffy was really good.
It was.
It was so good. Yeah, we could talk about that as well. It was,
Buffy's good.
but I would say it's also a bit different in the same time because Buffy had a lot of characters in that sense, and some people were choosing like different characters, or Buffy was just Buffy. I guess a lot of the fans they really root for her.
Mm.
It was interesting with Supernatural to actually see the two main characters. It's quite challenging, to be honest with you. As a writer, I can tell you this. I have a TV pilot that illustrates two main characters,
Okay.
and very difficult to develop both of them in a different ways, like to separate people, also give them different flaws and different experiences, and actually kind of try to give them that same consistency that they're going to get their development throughout the series. So I would say the challenge with Supernatural was there that both of the brothers, they were, main characters and fundamentally quite different people as well. If you look at Dean, for example, Dean is more like funny and silly, but also quite serious. He's the older brother.
Mm.
He loves to eat and go out and have fun, while Sam is like the the quiet younger boy. He wanted to go to uni and study. He wanted to get married. Very, very different personalities as well. But also that they have similarities because they grew up together. They have similar experiences and traumas. So I would say Supernatural was a bit more challenging, and the storyline was interesting. Actually, originally they said that Supernatural would have probably stopped at the first 5 seasons, but it kept going for another 10. So,
The power of fandom, that's what that is.
mm,
You know, if we support it, they'll make more
exactly.
because we want to see it. So it keeps people in a job. It gives us more character enjoyment, more stories to follow. You know, so for some people, a good show is like a comfort blanket. You know, they can return to it time and time again and relive these memories, relive these stories because they're good.
Mm.
So yeah, if we want it, make it. Simple as that.
And actually, something else to mention is that if I'm sure other people in the fandom they might have done this already, but I've actually been to a Supernatural convention in Birmingham
Oh, okay.
2017, and actually seeing them, it was only Supernatural because I've been to Comic Cons before, so I've seen other actors and other stuff going on, but that specific one was only about Supernatural, and the energy and the vibe. To be fair, I would hands down, I would say was one of my best conventions I've ever been because what you see when you see them on stage and they interact, they're quite normal people, very down to earth, very real. And when you've been following Supernatural for a while, when you watch the series, you kind of see that they brought themselves into these characters, and that's why the fandom is so big, and there's so many people that they follow Supernatural because Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles, they really brought their personalities to these characters. Jensen, for example, he plays the guitar, he sings, and they performed on the Comic Con. They were actually performing and playing songs, and I was like, how talented are these people? But then it kind of makes sense as well because in the story, Dean plays these amazing bangers of like great rock music. So you see these real elements that the actors bring to these characters. At some point, I was actually thinking that, you know what, this is not Sam and Dean, this is Jared and Jensen.
That's crazy. I mean, I have read recently that a lot of fans want to see Jensen Ackles as the next Batman in live
Really?
action. I don't know. Do you think he could bridge the gap between Supernatural and DC? I don't know.
Yes, he plays in The Boys as well, and he's smashing it.
He is. It's Soldier Boy, is he?
Yeah,
In The Boys, a great kind of bad version of Captain America, which I know in The Boys, all these superheroes are in it, are all kind of takes on existing characters, all evil versions and so on. But yeah, I could kind of picture him in the cowl and the cape. I guess there's many options out there for the next Bat, I suppose. So why not put him in there?
yeah, I think he will be a really good fit actually, because as Dean in Supernatural, he had a lot of dark elements as a character. And he kind of has that similar vibe, I'm this very intelligent guy, but I have all this darkness and all these thoughts. And Dean had some similarities like that to Batman. I would say he had some dark elements. He was definitely darker than his brother. So me seeing him as Dean in the series, I can definitely vouch that I think he would have a really good shot as Batman.
Oh, well, Hollywood, if you're listening, and I hope you are, cast him. Put him in the tights. Let's see what he can do with an already well-established character with a massive array of people have played him. Why not give Ackles a go? Come on, let's put him in the suit. Let's see what happens.
Very underrated, both of them, I would say. They're really good actors, and they had some other credits before, but because of obviously Supernatural taking so many years in the making, I don't think they had chances to play in a lot of other films and series. But I would hands on, I love those boys, even in Supernatural, but also in real life. I can't lie, I do follow them on social media. I always check a bit what they are doing in their life. They seem like really cool dudes.
It's a nice link again. I feel like you're my producer almost because you keep giving me these great links to the next topics. I was just going to mention, if I may, a quote I've seen on one of your social media profiles. I'm not going to disclose which one it is because I'm not having people stalking you. But I mentioned beer earlier, and it is the first statement in one of your social media profiles. I'd like to read this out, if I may, and see if there's any truth to it. It says here, "We are here to drink beer. We are here to kill war. We are here to laugh at the odds and live our lives so well that death will tremble to take us." So a great phrase, a great statement piece. But the only thing I get from it, obviously, ending war is important. That's great. We don't want war anymore. But as a passionate fan, I must mention beer because I love beer. I'm not an alcoholic, everybody. I just appreciate a really nicely made real ale. So I have to talk about whether you drink beer, if you're a fan of beer, what's your go-to beer, and beer. So bias there, folks. I know. I'm sorry, everybody. Other drinks are available, and we don't endorse over usage. Please drink responsibly. But are you a beer fan?
Hell yes. I have a quote about beer in my social media, so I'm sure I'm drinking beer. So yeah, I love beer. I'm actually one of these girls that they love beers. I'm sorry, this is not very girly on me, but I grew up with three brothers and a dad, so
You've got to have a beer.
you gotta have a beer. And especially in the summer, back home in Cyprus, everyone drinks beer in the summer because it's just so cold and just perfect.
So do you prefer it on draft or from a bottle or a can or
Draft.
draft? Okay.
Has to be draft.
What's the name, if you can remember it, of your local Cyprus beer that was near to where you lived? What was it called?
So actually, in Cyprus, we drink Carlsberg because, if I'm not mistaken, in Cyprus they do kind of produce it in Cyprus as well. I don't know how that works with
Oh, wow.
Carlsberg, but they do make it in Cyprus too.
Okay.
And we do have two local beers as well. The one is called Kio, and the other one is called Leon.
Okay. I've often tried to sample a local beer. I've not traveled a lot of places around the world, but I tried to sample a locally produced beer. I think the one that kind of springs to mind right now was when I went to, I think it was Bulgaria, and they had a beer called Kamenista. I don't know if that's specific to Bulgaria, but the name kind of jumped out at me because it's quite an unusual one.
Yes.
But I remember it being a really nice beer. Yeah, I'm quite a big fan of them. I have kind of mellowed in my later years. I've kind of steered clear of your traditional lagers and your traditional beers. Now I tend to favour real ale that is more flavoursome, has a wider character, and to be fair, economically speaking, is much cheaper. I've been seen in many a Weatherspoons having one of their guest ales that's about £2 a pint, and then you look across the room and you've got a couple of young kids buying 2 bottles of Budweiser and paying £10 for it. I like value for money, so that's where I go. Have you drank real ale? Is it something you've partaken in?
Yes, I like. First of all, I would try any beer. Let's just put it out there. But if I'm out, usually I will go with the very specific one because it's just easier to drink. I do love my Guinness as well.
It's like the best conversation ever.
It's like they are right. In Ireland, it just tastes different.
It does. I don't get it. Why is it the same product tastes better if you drink it in the country it's originally from?
Actually, I think I've asked this question. Sorry to interrupt you. When I went to Ireland, they say that it has to do with when they're distributing the beer outside of Ireland. Obviously, it has to travel, so it has to do with moving the beer away. That's for sure. I don't know the specifics. But the reason why it tastes better in Ireland is because they brew it there and it's just more fresh. It has to do with distributed outside. It loses some of its flavor when it's distributed outside of Ireland.
No.
So that's what.
That's such a shame.
Wish I could explain it in more of a scientific way, but that's the best I can remember.
It's nice and kind of it's a down to earth kind of phrase. Like it's moved away from its hometown, so it's not as good anymore. It's only nice where it's made. It's a lot like when you have fish and chips at the seaside. It tastes better because of the sea air. But if you go to your local chip shop and have fish and chips, although it's nice, it doesn't have that same kind of seaside vibe. And it must be to do with the salty air or the Guinness made in Ireland or having, Carlsberg in the home country. There's something about homemade products that taste better where they're made.
To be honest, I have to say the Brewdog beers are amazing as well. When we go to Brewdog, I always obviously have an IPA. And any beer, I like trying different flavors. I'm not gonna lie. But if I am out and I want to drink beer, don't laugh at me, but I'm gonna go with the Carling because it's just easier to drink it and I can have more.
I mean, listeners, I am hanging my head in shame because I no longer drink such drinks. Now, I did when I was younger, when I first discovered lager. I say younger. I was in my early 20s before I even sampled alcohol. Anyway, I did try calling back in the day, but then again, as I've mellowed, as I've gone older, my taste buds have changed. So, I've tried more things that have more flavor, more quality about them. And it's more about the enjoyment. Like my own kind of, I don't know, home drinking session, as it were, would probably only consist of maybe 2 cans or 2 bottles, or maybe 1 can and 1 bottle of real ale, just for some flavor comparisons. I'm not the kind of guy who would sit in the house and drink 10 bottles of beer or 10 cans of beer. It's just not my way. But I don't mind a couple of, IPAs, like you said, or maybe a stout and a Guinness or something, just to compare. It's more for me about the flavor and the enjoyment, as opposed to just drinking alcohol.
I agree with you. And to be fair, even I mean, I'm young, so I would drink. Obviously, I don't I don't support that people should go out there and drink too much.
Always drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly, please. Don't listen to me. But instead of usually going for other drinks like vodka or, mixers and stuff like that, I would always go for a beer. And definitely, I do like going and trying breweries, or, I want to do actually more breweries. I haven't done enough breweries, but every
Oh,
time
yeah.
I'm in a brewery, I just want to taste every different flavor. But when I'm out, my friends, they know that Elena would have a beer. So
Let me ask you this then. Are you going to be the stereotypical lady who gets, a small glass, a little half pint, or do you get the full pint?
mate, I always get a full pint.
Yes. Come on, that's how it should be. You can't enjoy a pint if you're getting half of it.
Well, half pints from me. No.
I always find if I go to like a beer festival, for example, and they say, "Do you want a half pint?" There's always that kind of what kind of look. No, I don't want half a pint. I want a full pint. I want to enjoy it. And yes, folks, I
Exactly.
realize this has taken us down a very majorly beer-based conversation towards the end of this, but I'm a fan of it. Fandoms are important. We've dived into producing, we've dived into writing, we've dived into the supernatural fandom. Beer can be something you can be a fan of. And no, I'm not referring to over drinking and alcoholism. I'm referring to just enjoyment.
Mm.
Like we've mentioned, flavors, taste, styles, enjoyment kind of phase of my life. I've really taken to it like wine. Each one's different and it's got its own character. So I'll sample one and see what it's like and enjoy it from there. For me, it's more about flavors, tastes, and
Mm.
the general, like I say, the enjoyment of it all. With a cheese board, just have to throw that in there. I'd throw cheese board in there as well. Sorry.
Ooh, oh, that's a good one.
What can I say? Beer and cheese, that's a classic combination, and I'm rounder because of it. I'm very proud of my weight gain because I put a lot of effort into this, so I'm happy.
That's great, honestly. Yeah, especially if in the summer, you're sitting at like a garden, sun's shining, and you get this cold beer that just it's draft.
Oh,
It's a dream. I don't know. You're right. I feel this enjoyment that you're talking about. I love it every time I drink beer. There's a lot of people out there ask me, why do you drink beer? It doesn't taste good. And I'm like, no, it does. You just don't
it
you
does.
don't get it.
Think of all the work that has gone into it. There's a good friend of mine who does his own brewing at home, and he makes phenomenal beer that you can't buy anywhere because it's made by him and his particularly unique flavors and hop choices and barley and so on. He makes his own unique beer. And when I get those opportunities to sample it, it's heaven.
Wow.
It's something you can't taste anywhere else. It's a very specific, limited number of bottles he produces, and can't emphasize it enough. I mean, if he ever decides to go mainstream, I'll shout his name from the rooftops and plug his beer everywhere. But for now, it's more about home enjoyment and
Mm.
having that hobby of making something or creating something and enjoying it. Much like I've done with this podcast, it's always been a labor of love, something I want to create for people to enjoy, which thankfully is still going on. People out there are pressing play, much like you, dear listener. Thank you for taking the time and bringing people together. Yeah, it's just been a fun journey for me. Much like the creative journey you're on at the moment and still going on. You're putting pen to paper, you're putting ideas out there, making things happen. Where do you see yourself going with this passion for writing and producing things and creativity that you have? What's your ultimate goal?
I don't know. It's an interesting question because for a while there's been so many obstacles and it's been a very long journey that I hate to say this, and maybe other writers will relate, and that's why I have to kind of mention it. It's such a long process and it's very slow.
Mm.
And I'm sure other creatives can, agree and feel this pain of like, you need to be trying and doing a lot of work. That many times you don't even get paid, or you don't see like instant results, or you don't get promotions like you would get in a normal job. You have to keep trying and having that resistance and dedication, and just keep trying and trying and trying until it gets you somewhere. So I guess for a long time, I felt, you know what, I don't know what the future holds. I'm just need to focus what I'm doing right now, keep doing it until I get somewhere. But after me seeing this list of stuff that I've done before, I can confidently say that I see myself being a paid writer. And that means I can actually have an opportunity to work in a channel in the UK, one of the British channels. I can actually get out there and collaborate with others and make do some indie films, some short films. I have quite a few short scripts, and I want to collaborate with other people and possibly take it to festivals. So
Okay.
definitely festivals is a target of mine. Having my first proper writing gig to a studio or a channel. And of course, there's these two projects of mine that they're quite of a bigger concept, that my firstborns, they're the first ones that I wrote as well as scripts. So those ones I'm actually hoping to try them in America and really go for the big screen.
Mm.
But I still want an easy life, you know. I just want to get paid for my writing. And I'm open to do other stuff too. I want to be a flexible creative,
Yeah,
you know.
of course. I think it's going to be a definite. There's I can only see nothing but passion from you
Mm.
and so much creativity that whatever you're going to do, it's going to happen. You've just got to keep that real sense of positivity that you're emanating right now to channel you forward. It's going to happen, and I'm sure the next time we chat, it will be celebrating the amount of success you've had, because I have every faith it's going to work. You're going to achieve everything you want, and it all started here. I could say I was chatting to you before it all took off. I knew her when she was at ground level. Now she's up in the sky, but I knew her at ground level. I was there when she took off. So yeah, it's nothing but a fun journey ahead. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are getting to the closing parts of the conversation. I know, folks, I know we've been chatting
Oh,
to you for ages, but it's gonna be bedtime soon, I know. So, I've got to send Eleanor on her way, and I've got to get myself tucked into bed. So let's give a shout out to Eleanor. Let's give her the chance to tell people about herself. So the floor is yours. How can people get in touch or follow your work?
so at the minute, it will be good if you guys want to check out my website. I'm sure they will put it on a link as well.
Hopefully, yeah.
But my website has some samples of articles that I wrote in the past. There's a list of my portfolio, ways to reach out to me. I'm very big on collaborations at the minute. So if anyone wants to get in touch through my website or reach out, and I'm open to collaborate with people on different projects. As I said, I want to do short films. So anyone who's in the industry, even if it's music composers, actors, producers, directors, any form, I would love to work with you. So yeah, check it out, please.
All the information will be on the podcast link and the description on the show, folks. So feel free to just click on the link and go and enjoy some great creativity, because I certainly have. This has been amazing. It's been a great bit of a whirlwind of a chat. We've covered media, we've covered fandom, we've covered the.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a bit too excited there. A nice all-round kind of chat. How have you found chatting with my good self today?
A bit nervous at the beginning, but it's been great. In honesty, I didn't anticipate that we can talk about so many different topics and the fandoms. And yes, the beer. I do feel the passion there.
Yes, there's a lot of it.
I think you're very supportive of other people, and definitely it gave me a space to also talk about these projects of mine. And writing sometimes is a bit of a hermit mode, you know, craft. So it's actually interesting to speak to people about it and see how they feel, and actually get a chance to share all these things that I'm doing with someone. So it's been incredible. And honestly, thank you so much for having me. I love this chat. I'm actually quite sad that it's ending. We should have more.
No, I'm sorry. Who knows? You could be a reoccurring guest. There's always a welcome opportunity to come back and chat, wherever it might be about. But I'm just glad I made you feel at ease. It's always nice to get a new guest on. I was equally as nervous, but we've eased into it. We've got a rapport now, so it's okay. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. So yeah, just come back anytime. And if I see you in town, I'll buy you a pint because I know you drink them now. So it's all good. If I see you in town, I will get you a pint of Brewdog or something like that. We will sort that out. Listeners, you know, you can follow me at AVA Talks, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. On the socials, it's all at AVA Talks. Get in touch. Let me know what you think about the show. Let me know if you want to be a guest of mine. Much like Elena, you can come on and chat to me about anything that you feel passionate about. Good, bad, angry, sad, joyful, whatever it might be. Come and speak to me. Let's make an episode out of it and we'll have some fun together. Get me on AVA Talks. Till then, I'll speak to you next time. Have a great day. And yeah, take care of yourselves. Bye for now.